All right, everybody, we've got another very special guest for you all this week. I want everyone to welcome back to the show, Will Robson. Welcome, Will.
Thank you for letting me know that I've been on here before embarrassing myself with setting me up there. Because I was on here, it must have been, if it was for the Great Lakes Avengers, that must have been years ago. Because that was 2016, I think, when I was doing that book, 2017.
Yeah, those were earlier years of the show. So we're in 2013. We've been around for 8 years now. So yeah,
Wow.
you were an early interview,
Well,
which
that's cool, man.
which probably at the time I was like, oh my god, I can't believe we got him because I loved the Great Lakes Avengers and that book was so much fun.
Yeah, it's a shame that one got cancelled. I mean, everyone
Yeah,
involved loved working on that. But that book's cancellation led to me getting to work with Tom McFarlane. So, the silver linings, right?
yeah. What is it? Whenever a door closes, a window opens, or something like that.
A
So
window. Yeah.
yeah.
Or a trap door.
So yeah, so I mean, like you said, you've been on the show before, so we don't have to do the whole origin story. If anyone's interested in that, you can find the old interview. I'm sure we did it back then. But Will, you've had a journey since then. Like you said, you got to work with McFarlane and doing the cool books there and a few other things. But I think I'd like to focus on the past like year or so of what you've been doing because you've had an interesting kind of story over this past year of what's been going on. You were part of the IDW Originals line, which I was personally touting as a great idea for IDW. I thought it was something good for them to get kind of new IP out there, not just doing the same old IP mill books, as much as I like some of those books. And that didn't go so hot. So, I mean, would you like to talk a little bit about that process, what happened there?
Yeah, sure. Around the pandemic, I was drawing Damage Control for Marvel, um, and I was still trying to figure out writing is my true passion, right? And it always has been. And I've just been trying to figure out how to finally put my foot down and figure out how to break in as a writer. And Marvel shut their doors because Diamond shut their doors during the pandemic. So I was out of a job for like 8 months in 2020. And during that time off, I was like, this is it. Like, I got to knuckle down and become a writer because this is the time for me to try and switch gears. So that's when I started deciding like it's finally time for it to happen. And that's why I'm putting together like my Kickstarters and stuff today. So I started doing a little bit of writing for Dynamite, which was fun. Vampirella and Red Sonja and Deja Thoris and stuff like that because they really liked my art. So through that, I got opportunities to write, which was great. And then I have written for IDW before. I wrote a Casey Jones one-shot story for them and drew Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I've just been always emailing editors pictures, right? Whoever is doing creator-owned stuff at these companies, I've been editing. So there was this one editor at IDW that I've worked with before, and they let me know, hey, just let you know, we're going to have a new creator-owned line, and would you like to keep pitching to me? Just keep sending ideas because they've always liked my work. So I started sending them ideas. I had one pitch, which was like this huge, cool ghost story that I still really love that I want to do. But I found that through the process, a lot of the higher ups, they want stuff to change as stuff goes on. And I didn't like the changes they wanted for that book. So I actually backed out of that one, which was like a huge decision for me because I'm like, I really want to break it as a writer. And I had this opportunity where they're like, oh, yeah, we'll pick up this book, but you need to change this and this. But I believed in that story so much that I was like, let me think of something else for you guys. So this was a process for like 2+ years of me continuously pitching to IDW, to this editor. And then I started catering the pitches more towards their interests on purpose. And we discussed it ourselves and got a book through to them that they really liked, which is Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. Got that approved by the higher ups. And, a lot of people, I saw when my book was announced that it was canceled. And I said it had taken me like 2 years to get the book off the ground. A lot of people were like, oh, you're so lazy, like 2 years, like that's so long. I'm like, you don't understand the process of this stuff at all. Like there's so many layers of approval. So first you have to get the basic idea approved. Then there's interest, right? And then you have to fill out like a huge like sheet of like, this is the backstory, this is the main story, this is the theme, this is why it's important today. Here's the fan base that would like it, yada 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 yada. IDW has a structured form for that. You work with the editor to get that catered perfectly towards the higher ups. And remember, these editors are editing comics, so it's not like they're like waiting for you to hand this in, like, oh, and I'll get on it right away. No, they're busy people, so it's a long process. So you do that, then it gets sent to the higher ups, then they give their feedback, so you change it to their feedback. And then once they approve it, then you have to go into breakdowns of every single issue, and that takes a long time because you got to get editor approval for the whole story breakdowns. Then it goes to the higher ups. They obviously change everything, so you have to then go back, prove it, yada yada yada. It's a huge cycle to finally get everyone. It's like a Mexican standoff, right? Like everyone's pointing a gun at each other. It's like, are we ready? You ready? Like, it's like we don't know if we're ready yet. So it finally got approved, and then we were suddenly off to the races, and I started writing the book this summer, and it was fantastic. Like just writing a book, and originally I wasn't even supposed to be the artist for this book because I wanted to try and push myself away from becoming a writer artist, because I really just want to be a writer at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So we had another artist attached, but they had some incredible like major health issues, so they had to back out. Totally understandable. And I didn't want the book to die, so I was like, I'm going to step in and I'll be the artist for the book. So I'd drawn like I think 4 or 5 pages for the book. But mainly writing. I wrote 2.5 scripts, and then just one Monday last month, I was just finishing writing half of issue 3, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I checked my email, and it was just like out of nowhere, like, hey, just let you know the book's been cancelled, and we're sorry, it has nothing to do with your work. It's just a restructure at IDW. Here's your rights back, which is great. I know there's a lot more horror stories out there where people don't get to retain rights, or they do something where they hold you back from making the book for like 5 years elsewhere, or whatever awful corporate stuff someone invents that's greedy.
Action Labs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the story behind Action Labs. Was there's still a few writers. I think I'm not gonna say who, because I don't know if it's public or not, but there's one bigger writer right now that's still fighting with them to get a couple books back.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I immediately just went to Twitter and I was like, well, this sucks. Like, my book got canceled. And like, the thing is like, I saw other people saying like, well, you've retained the rights. Like, it's fine. Like, you could take it elsewhere. And sure, I can. But like, you have to understand, this was a huge opportunity for me personally, because it was a major publisher that signed me on to writing. So I'm already considered, professional enough to be a writer. Because look, I've been drawing comics professionally for the past decade, but breaking in as a writer is so much harder than breaking as an artist, because if you're an artist, you just hold up a piece of paper with a doodle on it and they're like, that's good, you can draw my book, right? But like with writing, like no one's going to sit down and like read your scripts or anything. You actually have to invest money and make comics and stuff like that. Because I was actually pitching to Marvel a few years ago, and one of the editors was really honest with me, and I don't take offense to this, but they're like, look, we're freaking Marvel Comics, like, no offense, but you got to go somewhere else and like build up your resume to come back to write for us. And I'd already been drawing for them for like 6 or 7 years, so I was like, fair enough, that's exactly what I'm going to try and do. So yeah, I was just super psyched. And the great thing about IDW is they got a direct connection to Hollywood, so adaptation was on the table for the stuff we were making. Like a lot of their approval stuff was focusing on trying to develop, create our own stuff and turn it into franchises and this, that, and the other. So that was exciting, right? Like I was like, great. As a kid who went to film school and wanted to be the next freaking Quentin Tarantino, and then realized that making independent movies is far too expensive to invest in, like that was a dream. Like, so I was really bummed out. And funnily enough, recently I've had I wasn't as upset when it first happened, but now it's been like a month and time's passed. It's actually been affecting me mentally, like really bad. I've been getting like super depressed and like some anxiety and panic attacks because of it. So anyway, trying to work through that type of stuff. But yeah, it sucks. So I posted about it. It got picked up. People were like listening, and then I found out I wasn't the only one, right? There was tons of other books that all happened. And I've signed something where I can't say like the exact reason why certain things have happened. But it has nothing to do with the quality of work. At the end of the day, comics are a business, right? And like
Mhm.
the old saying, "It's not personal, it's business," is so true. So that's why I hold zero animosity towards IDW for what happened. Am I mad it happened? Of course I am. Like I spent years doing those pitches, and when you do those pitches, it's not like you get paid to do them. That's all free work of like building and building and building the story until it's finally approved. I spent hours and hours and days of my life putting that together for absolutely for free, because this, at the end of the day, comics is the people that do this really have the passion for it, right? You can't do anything else.
Okay.
So that's upsetting, but at the end of the day, it's a business. I get it. If it doesn't fit their bottom line, then it's not going to work out. So I was sadly a part of that, but now I'm bringing the book to Zoop, which is a crowdfunding platform that's fairly new, that just focuses on comics. And the reason I went with Zoop is because they do all like the fulfillment, and they do a bunch of other things as well. Like they've set me up with interviews with tons of different news sites and things like that, and they're doing a bunch of other behind the scenes stuff that was appealing to me.
Mhm.
So that's why I took the book there. And also the best thing is that they control the crowdfunding funding platform. So they were like, we can put up a launch page like immediately if you want to. So you can like basically like everyone's talking about your project being canceled right now. We could put something up there and we can get people signed up now. And I was like, well, we should do that. So because the way news works, like it's the moment a week's gone, no one cares anymore. No one even remembers. So we're gonna try out Zoop. I don't know how it's gonna go. Like it's very different from my Outbreaks book, because Outbreaks is a huge just passion project of mine. Like I don't make any money off of that book. I've sunk thousands of dollars into that book to pay the artists, and like the point of that project is to make money just so it could be colored, printed, and shipped. And whatever extra money I make, I put right back into the book. Like
Mhm.
just because I know it's quite a niche thing. Like not everyone loves zombies, but I'm a zombie mega nut. So I just want that book to exist. Like I just love it so much. So that's different. Where between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, I'll have to be looking to raise more money because I'll have to live off of that book, right? If I want to make that book, I'll have to ask for a number that gets me an income, because my Outbreaks is what I do in the evenings and in the mornings, and I don't get paid for that, so it's just pure passion. But I need to make some money. I can't have my wife take all the reins on all the finances. So yeah, anyway, rambling now.
Yeah. Yeah, I personally I like Zoop. I think they still have some kinks to work out, but they seem to be going in the right direction and they seem to be working on those things. So I don't really hound on those things too much. But as a platform, I really like it. And I from every creator I've talked to, I like that they kind of handle more of the back end to
Yeah.
let you guys just go out and do interviews and just worry about making the book, as opposed to all the stuff you have to do with a Kickstarter campaign that can be grueling at times.
Yeah, I just did fulfillment on the first Outbreaks campaign, and me and my wife were spent. Oh my god, it's so much work, and like I only had to send out I think about 68 packages or something like that. But that was tough. Like it was just like, and it sounds so stupid. Like you're building boxes and putting like paper in it and making sure everyone's orders right and sending it off to America and getting everything printed and yada yada yada. It's not that tough of a thing to do, but it was overwhelming. So not having to do that on Zoop, great.
Yeah, and you being in the UK, having to ship it out overseas for a lot of creators in the United States, a lot of their businesses in the United States, so the shipping's fairly cheap. I mean, it's still expensive, I know, but not too bad. But overseas shipping, just crossing the border from the US to Canada shipping is outrageous. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's a whole nother thing in that itself.
Yeah. I didn't budget my shipping costs correctly for the first one. I went over by about £500. So I've worked that into the current Kickstarter, because I'm happy I got overfunded last time. Otherwise, I would have been screwed. But then again, me and my wife, we wanted to make the packages special. So like we had like little lollipops in them with zombie eyeballs on them, and like green like zombie paper, and she like folded it up in like black paper with a in an envelope shape with like a zombie sticker on it. All the comics are bag and boarded with like zombie stickers on the back, and like all the trading cards are like slabbed. Like it's a pristine, lovely like package you receive, but we realize it costs like triple the amount to send it like that than regularly. But whatever, it's done.
It was great. So I guess to say to everybody, like I backed the first book, I read the first book, really enjoyed it, and we'll get more into depth on Outbreaks. But the packaging when I got it was different from most other Kickstarters you get, because normally you get that Gemini box from a lot of Kickstarters,
Yeah,
which are awesome, and you did something a little different. And I'm pulling everything out, and you have the packaging material in there, and I'm like, what's this hard thing in the middle of it? And it was a lollipop, and
yeah.
I
A
kind of
lot.
laughed to myself. I was like, that's cute. I like that.
That was all my wife's idea. And a lot of people have been throwing them away because they just blend into the green paper too much. So I've seen people now being like, there was a lollipop in there, I threw it away. Like, oh no. Well, the next, if we do get funded on the next campaign, we've switched now. My wife actually found it today because it's Halloween. Gummy eyeballs and like gummy, like other zombie body part stuff, just so it fits in the box a bit better and has less weight. So that'll be the end of the lollipops.
Yeah, I did throw mine away, and I looked down because there was something hard in there, and I noticed it because I was literally just pulling the packaging out and just putting it right in the trash, and I felt it, and it fell down. I saw it, and I was like, "That's a lollipop." So I almost did myself.
Well, we did it because when I buy art supplies from this place, I think it's called cultpens.co.uk is the website.
Mhm.
Without a fail, anytime I buy new pens to draw with, they always send like a little thing of Haribo in it. And my wife's and I have always weirdly appreciated that. And it's kept our business specifically with them. We're like, well, that's the company that sends us Haribo. So we have to order our pens with them. So that's why we did it, because I thought it was a silly little thing.
Yeah, I've said
So
forever. I've said forever now with Kickstarter campaigns, and whether you use Kickstarter, Zoop, Indigo, whatever you use, you need to make it somewhat special for the backers, because presumably they're over. I don't want to say overpaying, but they're paying more than the regular comic for
no,
this.
they are definitely overpaying because
Yeah.
it's paying for a much smaller printed product, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone on Kickstarter is printing smaller. So in a way that creates more value anyway, because I mean the print run for Outbreaks issue 1, I think I only printed like 100 copies of each
Oh, wow.
comic. So and when I'm offering issue 1 again in the current Kickstarter, and I when I reprint it, it will say that it's second printing and stuff like that. So, and I'm doing that on purpose so that people know that if there ever is value to any of this stuff, there's only 100 in the world. It was this many printed. Like I always like that in the collector's world. Like you look at like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, and you're like, oh, with this one, with this, and this is like the OG one. Like that's like what people love. So in a way that I think that helped create value. And then another thing I appreciate is if you get overfunded, start giving people free stuff so that their initial investment gets worth more and more and more as you get more and more funded.
Hmm.
I think that's just a really nice thing to do because, yeah, I'm asking for £10 for a single issue comic. Now, it may be 10 or 15 pages more story wise than your regular comics, so you're kind of paying for 2 comics. But then you get like the trading cards and the stickers and signs and like all this and bagged and board and all this extra stuff that hopefully makes it feel worth it. And one thing I was told that I think is really true about Kickstarter is don't skip your packaging, like make it look good, because that's the final impression that you leave on a backer, right? Like when they
Hmm.
receive your Kickstarter, that's it, like for the whole experience. So if it comes like in a beaten up box with like no love in it, it's going to really reflect like that you don't maybe potentially care about their backing and it was all just a business, or that they weren't a part of some sort of experience. Like I like making it special because Kickstarters are special, right? Like you're crowdfunding a really niche little product for specific people that either believe in you or believe in the product. So put your all into it, especially if you get overfunded. Like spend the extra money on the green freaking paper. I know it costs more, but it looks great, and all that type of stuff. So I really believe in that.
Definitely. And with the Zoop campaign, I mean, so they take care of all of that. Is there any worry of the packaging and how it's going to come to backers when that's done?
I think that I chat with the guys that run that, and everything is fully open to talking about, and it's like so it's not. I don't think they would ever put their foot down with stuff. I think there's ways to communicate and do things with that because there's fun stuff I definitely want to do with that book, that with the packaging that caters towards that style of story. So I definitely want to do some fun things for those packages. And I know that they'll be open to talking about that. And also, it can even if it came down to a thing where it's like, oh, that's going to cost extra, then I'll pay extra for it. They're so open there. Like it's. I like that it's a bit more smaller scale because it's fully able to chat and stuff. And Zoop's going to be interesting because the way their platform works is, on Kickstarter, I made all these different packages, right? And I had in mind like, all right, I'm a new buyer and I want to buy issues 1 and 2. So what type of rewards should I be catering to that person? I'm someone that's coming back and now wanting to read issue 2, cater towards that, yada 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 yada. So you build all these little packages to make sure you've covered all your bases, so people at different levels know what they're going to get. But with Zoop, it's kind of just like a store. Like basically, you buy, if you want to back the book, you buy a copy of the book, right? And the moment you buy a copy of the book, then you're open to like a storefront, essentially. Like, okay, you back the book. Would you like to have like a pin? Would you like to have multiple copies? This variant cover? Would you like to have it signed? Would you like to have a sketch done? Like, that's kind of a really interesting idea on crowdfunding because you're asking people to come in on a certain level and then they can just build their own packages. But then it's all different. Like I love Kickstarter though because you get to do Kickstarter exclusives, right? So stuff that you're only selling through Kickstarter, which you can do on Zoop as well, absolutely. And then I don't know if Zoop can do early bird specials. I'm sure they can, but I really enjoyed doing that this time around. Like for the first 24 hours of the campaign, like the signed comics were no extra cost and stuff like that, and that did really well for me. So yeah, it's just I love it. I love like building like the little like rewards and catering to certain people, and then I love watching what people choose. Like this time around, I did a mystery package for the first time because I saw some other people doing it. And with that, you get 2 copies of Outbreaks, and it could be any of the covers. So from the basic cover all the way up to the super expensive minimal print run covers. You get a signed comic by me from my career, so anything I've done at Marvel, DC, and all that stuff, and the booster packs and mystery cards and stuff like that. And I didn't think anybody was going to care about that, but that's been one of our most successful things so far. People even getting that as add-ons to their regular pledges. So I will definitely do that in the future. So yeah, it's all a learning curve, and I love it. As a kid, I used to set up when my grandparents came to visit. I used to set up like stuff in my room that I didn't want anymore as like a stall. And I'd be like, maybe they'll want to buy like these golf balls because I know my grandfather likes to golf. And I'll put buy 1 get 2 3 and all. And I was just like really interested in all that like storefront type stuff. So anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about now.
I like that. So before we move on from that book and talk more about Outbreaks, I mean, I guess we've talked a lot about the campaign and everything, but what is the book and why should people sign up for because it's not currently live, but it's you can subscribe to the Zoop.
The Zoop's not live, but Outbreaks is live. Yeah.
Yeah. So describe the Zoop book and why people should sign up for it.
Okay, so the book that's on Zoop, which is my canceled IDW comic that I'm trying to keep alive, it's called Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. It's a horror comic, psychological horror, about people that work in this facility at the bottomest of the ocean, in the Hadal Zone, because there's all these different zones in the ocean. And it's called the Hadal Zone because they say it's the closest to Hades you'll ever get on planet Earth. So I think that's just one of the coolest things ever. So there's all these people, and they work at the bottom of the ocean because they're trying to help this company save their public image from being just the worst oil company in the world, the worst oil spills this company's ever had. Like, they're just really bad. So they built this facility to recycle all of the man-made waste in the ocean, because this book's kind of like 50 to 100 years in the future-ish, and the ocean is just a mess, right? Like it's just covered in all of like the worst stuff imaginable. So these people are down there and they're working, and things start going strange. There's an oil leak. Suddenly, the replacement crew that's supposed to replace them is late, and they've been down there for 4 months as well, because that's just the way it operates. And they suddenly find that the replacement crew that was to come and replace them has crashed into the side of the facility, knocking out the power to their facility, and everybody is dead on that ship. So now these people are stranded at the bottom of the ocean in the pitch black, and things start to get strange. And the whole point of this book is that it's playing on all of my childhood fears in one book. So it's we have ghosts in the book. We have demonic possession in the book. We have sea monsters and creatures in the book. So it's a bit like The Thing, Haunting of Hill House, all wrapped up with one pretty horror bow, essentially. So it's a fun, really creepy and personal story that's kind of just about why mankind is kind of a dick and how we as a society make terrible choices. So that's what it's about with ghosts.
And will that be coming out issue to issue, or are you doing like a big collected version of it?
I think we're still so in the early days of chatting about it that I think we're going to just try and do issue to issue.
Awesome.
But they may have a different idea for it. We'll see. And so through that Zoop campaign, I'm going to be rummaging through everything I have in my cabinets. Like I'll be selling Outbreaks through there as well. I'll be selling original covers I did for Marvel and DC. Like I did a 40th anniversary Star Wars cover ages ago, so I'll be selling that through the campaign. So it's just going to be a big old Will Robson's for sale type of deal, you know. And commission.
Change it to the Will Robson garage sale.
That's right. Yeah. The online car boot sale, absolutely.
So let's shift gears over to Outbreak, because that's the book that's live right now. I received, as we talked about earlier, I received my copy earlier in the week, maybe even last week. Read it today and really liked that first issue. Like you, big zombie guy.
Oh yeah.
Even though people have kind of, I think Walking Dead made this oversaturation of zombies. Even though I don't know. For me, maybe I'm weird, but like I don't get oversaturated with things. Like Star Wars, you can keep feeding me Star Wars, and I'll never get bored of it.
I'm a bit Star Wars fed up personally. I've had too much of my fill on that, and superhero movies as well. But when it comes to zombies, I can't be full enough for that.
The things I like, the things I love, so superheroes, Star Wars, and zombies. Like I just have never gotten to that point. So while I see a lot of it, and I kind of compare it to what Marvel's going through right now, where it's like it's kind of cool to hate on Marvel. It became kind of cool to hate on zombies after like I don't know how many seasons we did of The Walking Dead, and they're still going.
Yes, they are.
But I personally never got sick of it, and I picked this book up knowing your name and seeing how cool the book looked, and I got exactly what I thought I was going to get, which was a fun zombie book.
Awesome.
With two great stories in it, one that you drew and wrote, and the other one that you just wrote. And I mean, talk a little bit about what the book is and how the first issue went for you before we jump into the second one.
Yeah, I'll ask you quick. What's your favorite zombie movie?
It's a really weird answer, but there's this book or this movie called Fido that I
love that
adore.
Movie.
I
Great.
Adore that movie.
That I kind of like a Fallout feel to that movie, right?
Yeah, it's like there was a zombie. To anyone who doesn't know, there was like a zombie war after World War II, and it's set in the 50s, and they've learned to kind of domesticate zombies, but then of course everything goes horribly wrong, and it's a lovely movie.
So the spirit of that movie is exactly what I'm trying to do in Outbreaks. Like I'm trying to tell stories that are not you're just like, oh, this person is trying, or this group of people are trying to survive in a zombie apocalypse, right? That's been done to death. That has been done extremely well. And I don't think you can add too much to just people surviving in the zombie apocalypse. I'm more interested in doing things like Fido, where it's like, what if the zombies were domesticated like pets, and it's the 1950s, or that to me is really interesting and adds new things to zombie storytelling. And the original idea, the idea came to me originally when watching a show called Black Mirror. And when watching that show, I was like, yeah, this show is great. It's all these different stories of different styles and genres, but the common theme through the whole show is technology. And I was like, that's a really cool idea. Like, look how you can just take the subject of technology and create so many different styles of story. Here's a horror, here's a comedy, here's a black comedy, here's, a drama. Like, I loved that. And I was like, you could do the same thing with zombies. And I was like, absolutely. Like Shaun the Dead, classic comedy, romantic comedy zombie movie. No one's ever done that, properly ever since. Fido, another comedy zombie movie. There's plenty of drama zombie stories, but I was like, there's room to tell, like, what about a superhero zombie story? And that's what I'm doing with Dead-Eye Dick, my backup story in the comic. I was like, what if I took something like Daredevil and zombified it? So that's exactly what I did there. And then Rotten Luck was, I guess it's a bit more like your standard zombie story, but it's a black comedy, and it's just about two guys that wake up at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, and they've been locked in the drunk tank, and they got to figure out a way to get out of the jail cell, or they're going to be left for dead. Like, and that's the thing, is like having those little hooks that make it far more interesting than just, oh no, there's an outbreak, and you know what I hate is in zombie movies today when they're like, oh, are you okay, sir? Oh, get off of me! Why? Oh no, he bit me! Like, I hate. Like, we all know the deal, right? Like, we don't need it's like seeing Batman's origin story over and over again. Like, we know his parents were shot in Crime Alley. Like,
we're on the same page, because that was gonna be my example. Like, I always joke. The joke I always make, and it's a dark joke, but I don't know, is when they tell Batman's origin story, is like, we get it, your parents are dead. Can we just get to the Batman stuff?
Yeah, I agree.
But go on.
So yeah, that's the plan. So right now, I've launched issue 2. Issue 1 was a success. We launched that back in March. Thank you for backing, Chris. And that got overfunded, which is awesome. So that helped fund this one, which we got Alex Cormack on the cover, who is just, to me, like the best horror artist working today. And it's the continuation of Rotten Luck, which is about the two people in the drunk tank. So that's a 3-part story. So that'll be told in issues 1, issues 2, issues 3. Dead-Eye Dick, the backup story written and drawn by me, which is about a World War II veteran who loses his eye during World War II. And in the 1960s, he's offered an experimental eye transplant, but he doesn't realize that the eye that's going in his head is a zombie's eye. So the zombie eye starts taking over his body, craving for human flesh, but also gives him superpowered abilities at the same time. So that's the continuing story that will go throughout all of Outbreaks. And then the other thing is we're looking at an image here. The whole book is hosted by a character called the Maitre Z. And this is my ode to things like Creepshow, Tales of the Crypt. Like, I love those old horror anthologies where you just have a character introducing all the stories and making everything feel like it's one theme. Because, with Black Mirror, when you go into it, it's just something different every single time. And I do kind of miss that common thread of like someone being like, we're in this strange world, right? So, the Maitre Z, he runs a movie theater in the zombie apocalypse. All of his customers are zombies themselves, including you for some reason. So you go into the Outbreaks theater and basically you're pretending like you're watching double features of horror. So that was sort of the initial idea of that. So that's from issue 1. That's the cover by the great David Hartman, who helped create the Jackie Chan adventures and lots of other childhood cartoons that are beloved. So it was super awesome getting him on the cover. And yeah, look, it's a huge passion project. Like, if you like zombies, you're definitely going to like the book. And we got plenty of more stories to tell. I mean, there's going to be a zombie courtroom drama in the future. That is a story that I really like. We got a story coming up called Dog of the Dead, which is basically homeward bound in the zombie apocalypse. You see it from a dog's point of view.
Cool.
What else do we have? We have a very pull on your heartstrings Disney-fied zombie story that's called Rust in Peace, and it's like Wall-E in the zombie apocalypse, and just tons of my brain is exploding with zombie ideas. I have them all written down. They've all got pun titles because I just love a pun in a title like Rotten Luck and Dead Eye Dick. Like that's what gets me excited. So yeah, look, this is made by a guy who grew up playing Resident Evil on PlayStation 1, but actually wasn't playing it because he was too scared to, so he watched other people play it. And someone that watched the Michael Jackson Thriller music video as a kid and found it absolutely terrifying. So if you love zombies, you're going to love Outbreaks.
Yeah, and I love this guy here. Kind of him stitching the stories together and giving you, not stitching them together, but giving you kind of a break from the story and being like, this is him telling the story to you almost.
Yeah.
And that coming back in a real way in the horror realm with I'm going to zone on the name of the book, but R.L. Stein's new comic series that's been out, he's doing a similar thing, and that ode to those old anthologies is just so much fun, especially when, like yourself in this one, you have fun with that character, and it's fourth wall breaking, which normally I'm not a big fan of, but in this realm, when you open up the book and he introduces himself and you're his first customer, and it kind of sets up where things are going, was just a ton of fun. I thought it was a great idea to keep the book flowing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I basically just took the Joker and the clown from Spawn and mashed them together as a zombie visually. So that was fun. And then, yeah, he's just a kooky guy that loves movies. Like, even though he's undead, he's like, yeah, but we must keep cinema alive.
Yeah, and I thought the first story, the Rotten Luck story, I thought did go in kind of more of a traditional zombie fare, but had a cool twist in it where like everybody was connected in a certain way, which I won't spoil, but that added its own realm. And also just them being in the drunk tank and being surrounded and kind of being like the one character who's the coach of the football team, and you get that great flashback to how he got into the drunk tank during the football game. Him being so confident, like, oh, we'll figure it out. And then like something happens and it just screws up everything. And he's like, well, we'll see.
Well, we're screwed.
And I actually am more excited about the Dead-Eye Dick story now you explain it, because when I read it as I assumed he was going to get something that was going to implant in him and kind of cure his eye issue. I didn't go superhero with it. I thought it was more of a horror of like it's taking over his body, and that's why what happened, the beginning of the story happened. So it actually kind of intrigues me more that it's a superhero story, and that's the one that you've stated is going to be more ongoing throughout all of the series, or at least most of the series, right?
The whole series. So I personally never plan to stop making Outbreaks. As it is my passion project, I would like to do it until the day I die, because I think there's so much potential there. So Dead-Eye Dick will always be a part of that. It will be the ongoing story. Like I could tell that story forever because it's set up that way to be a superhero story. So yeah, that guy in the background there will eventually be very. I don't think he'll have a costume, but he will become essentially like a Daredevil type character.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you've got a lot here, as everybody can see on the screen. I'm a cover A kind of guy, so I always just go with cover A, and that's what I chose for mine. But you talked about some of the cool rewards you're giving. So you've got a lot of the basics, the digital combo packs, the variant covers and everything. And then you talked a lot about the mystery package from earlier as well. Yeah. And you've got a ton of covers here. I mean, what was kind of your favorite thing to add other than the mystery pack? I mean, I know you talked a lot about that earlier.
Well, I've added a booster pack this time as a reward, because when I was first doing issue 1, I wanted to make trading cards because as a kid, I loved basketball and Pokemon cards. And I see a lot of people making trading cards, and it's usually it's kind of like the old Marvel cards where it's just like a picture of a person, you're supposed to collect it. And I did that, and I was like, that's kind of boring. Like, if I received it, because I always make it like, if I was buying this, what would I want? Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, well, what if it looked like an old Pokemon card? So I started doing that, and then I was like, nah, this just looks like, a ripoff of Pokemon. So I accidentally ended up making a fully playable trading card game. with all the characters from this book, which is kind of like, I don't know if you ever played Hearthstone or a bit like Magic the Gathering as well. It's pretty much like that, where and I will release later on how you play the game and stuff like that. So I've created a fully playable game. I don't expect anybody to ever play this game. I don't think, my wife has refused to play it with me, so I'll have to play it by myself at some point. But this time around, I'm actually offering booster packs. I found a printer that prints on like the old school, what's it called? Because it was made of a certain material, like the Pokemon packs back in the day.
Yeah.
So I found someone that can print a logo on there, and then also make it so there's 10 cards in there and it's all like stitched up. So that's really fun to me. Like, I'm really looking forward to putting those little booster packs together, choosing which cards go where, like who gets which shiny variant and all the stuff. And these trading cards are costing me a fortune in printing because I'm getting so many different styles and variants of stuff, but I love it. So again, that's the whole point of this book. I love it. So I just keep making it harder for myself. But besides that, I really liked the Resident Evil variant cover I did, because Resident Evil 2 is like my favorite zombie game of all time. So doing a homage to a game that really changed my perspective on zombies was great. And then, yeah, like the sketch covers I have available. Like if you want a commission from me, I'm drawing sketch covers on there. I did one the other day. Let me get up on my phone. Of someone requested for the first campaign a zombified version of Raphael from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I did that. You can see
that is really cool
on a blank sketch cover. So that's the type of stuff that I'm offering as well, because I don't usually have my commission list open because I'm so busy. Drawing comics full time is enough work for me. So this is like, if you want to get a commission from me, that's the place to do it. And selling original art from the book as well, like the first appearance of the Maitre Z, that's for sale. So if I'm trying to cater to everyone's budget, right? You don't, as little as like, hey, I can't give you much, I'll buy the digital version. That's the cheapest option, all the way up to the super glossy foil cover, extra pages, and this, that, and the other. So there's something there for everybody.
Yeah, and you've got some cool covers to go with issue 2 as well. I was looking to see if I could put up the trading cards without giving away my information, but not so much luck. But so you got a bunch of cool covers for this, as well as issue 1. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the covers you got?
So I'm a big Tom McFarlane fan. Everyone knows that. So with every single issue of Outbreaks, I'm always going to do a McFarlane homage cover. It's going to be tough as issues go on and stories change to find covers to do. So that's definitely going to be a challenge. But the guy's made so many iconic covers that it should be right. So that's an homage to an issue of the Hulk that he did. I don't remember the exact number, but it's the classic image of Wolverine holding up his claws with a reflection of the Hulk in them. So I have a character from the book who's at the bars of the jail cell, and you can see the zombies in the reflections. So that's that homage cover. So because I kind of like giving other artists I love doing the main cover.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm going to keep as a tradition. Like, sure, I could draw the main cover myself, but that's not fun to me. As a fan of Outbreaks myself, having my art not as the main cover is fun for me personally. So Alex Cormack there, I think he knocked that cover out of the park. I actually colored that cover myself, but we're going to do some more work together in the future because we really like working together, and I think we're a good match.
That cover is awesome. So that's the one I ended up getting. You did that. You have the blank cover. I mean, I don't need to talk too much about that. It's blank, everybody.
Yeah, it's got gold text now, though, so it's different.
And then, I like these from the first issue, and you're doing them again now with Resident Evil 2. So you've got some Resident Evil homage covers. Did you do these?
Yeah, I did all of those. I'm a big retro video gamer. Like, I love retro video games, so I just wanted to do something that was homage to that. I loved the speech comics on the side that it looks like PlayStation. And look, I even made like the greatest hits one with the green. So, but my wife was like, "That's a bit of a cop out. Like, it's just what, a different color there? I was like, no, you don't get it. It's the green, like back in the day with the greatest hits. She's like, well, then just make it an exclusive or something. Like, I was like, all right, fine. Because she's like,
Yeah.
you can't sell just both of those because you changed the color. But
She sounds like a wise woman because that was a
yeah,
good idea. But I do like that there's a greatest hits version as well as the original. As also a gamer who
yeah.
remembers these. But yeah, it's smart to make one a Kickstarter exclusive. So that's a cool cover you did there. And then as we're going down, we're getting into some of the other older covers.
So these are the noir covers, which are just no text on them, no colors. It's just the pure art, which a lot of people don't get to see.
Mhm.
I love when books do this. Like give me like Greg Capullo art like that all day. I love that type of stuff. So those have much more minimal print runs, and there's only a limited amount of them you can buy because I wanted them to be special. I don't want them to be there to be many of those out in the world. There's need to be collectibles.
Yeah, I love this stuff too. Not as big of so to put it out there, I'm not big on collecting every cover and all that stuff. There's a market for that. People love it and bless them for it. But I do like seeing this style of art, especially I've got a few art books from different creators from over the years, and I flip through those, and those are fun. But that's always really cool. And then the foil stuff that comic
So,
people love shiny things. So
so I wanted to make something special this time around. This is the deluxe version of the book, so it's higher end. It's got way more pages in the book, so you get the full cover gallery of all the covers. You get the making of the book, so loads of behind the scenes pages. It's kind of like a mini trade paperback of the book, essentially. So, and lots of other little exclusive things that are going to be in there. So, it's way more pages. It's better quality paper. It's got a shiny cover, which is awesome. Like as a kid of the '90s, like a shiny cover is exciting. And I still haven't decided if I'm going to make it actually like with a spine like a trade paperback or if I'm going to keep it regular. So I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting for people's feedback on that.
yeah, it's tough. That depends on the page count for me. I mean, as we're recording this, Marvel 1000 came out, or Marvel Age 1000, whatever the hell they're calling it, and it's that trade spine. And personally, it's not big enough. I hate it.
Oh, you do? What, the suit there? You know what? Now that you say that, I remember I had that Wolverine Ghost Rider Punisher John Romita Jr. book, and that was like really thin, but it was still technically like a trade. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Like I can't even read it. So maybe I won't do that.
And I'm also not the biggest on like my comics have to be pristine. Like I read my comics; they're meant to be read. But it does bug me that like part of the cover image is on that spine, and there's a bend in it now from reading it. Like that really bothers me. But just my 2 cents. And yeah, so we got some combo packs going through. There's your mystery pack there. Just a bunch of really cool tiers with a bunch of really cool stuff. And
it can be overwhelming for people, but I've tend to find I personally like when Kickstarters have lots of options because it just caters to everyone's budget and interests. I find it weird when someone puts up a Kickstarter and there's only like 3 options. I'm like, what? Like, where's all my options?
Yeah,
it's like you can get the book digitally, traditionally, and you can get 2 copies. Thank you very much. It's like, where's all the fun stuff?
Yeah, I agree because I tend to be in the minority of things where I'm fine if you put out one cover and just sell me the book. Like that's just how I always have been. But I just know a ton of people that love the different covers. Some people will go through. There's websites that have every variant cover you can get for a book. So if you're buying whatever the new, let's just say Daredevil book is, and you can see every cover for issue 14 that just came out, and you can pick out the one you want. I know people that love just picking out the perfect cover for it and everything. So there's a lot into it.
I'm a cover A guy myself as well. The last run I was collecting was Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder's Batman run in the New 52. And I remember it was my dad actually who was picking me up copies of it from working in London. And I was like, oh, did you get me the new Batman? He's like, I did. And I got you this variant cover. And I was like, no, it has to be cover A. So I had to go out and get cover A. So I definitely sympathize with you there. But
Yeah.
as a creator, variants are super important to your bottom
Yes.
dollar because you have one product, right, which is your book, and you've got to figure out ways that you can maximize your profit off of one book. So having variants is a fantastic way. People go overboard with it. You don't need 500 freaking variant covers. I even had 4 more variants for this Kickstarter, and my wife was like, "This is too many variants. Like, just throw them away." So that will all be in the deluxe version. You could see covers that were meant to happen, but that didn't happen. So yeah, it's all a process and figuring out what works. But so far with this campaign, I think we're sitting. What's the numbers right now? Just one second.
We're at
53% funded, £1,876 raised with 47 backers, which is awesome. And this time around, like a lot of people just bought the main cover for the last one, but people are getting like the bundles and extra stuff and variants. So I'm really happy about that because obviously the higher the pledge, the better it is in terms of getting to that goal as quickly as possible, which is always the goal.
definitely. And I mean, as we kind of wrap up, we talked about that the second story you wrote and drew. So you do a lot of the chores there yourself. But with the first story, you hired an artist to do it. Pimp out the artist. Who are you working with on that story?
So Monica McCagney is doing the line art for Rotten Luck, and she's absolutely incredible. She actually drew all 3 issues of it 6 years ago because that's when I was drawing Great Lakes Avengers, and I was taking the money I was making from that to pay her to draw this. And she did an incredible job. Such a good job that I didn't even need to hire an inker because her pencils were so tight. And the thing was that I originally tried to color. I colored the first like issue and a half by myself years ago, and it was terrible. And I was like, I am ruining this book. So that's why I decided to take it to Kickstarter because I wanted to raise enough money to hire a super professional colorist, which I did. So I hired Cyril Vincent, who's this amazing French colorist. He's colored things like Assassin's Creed and all these other really cool books. And I don't know what happens in France, but they make some of the best colorists in the world in France. And those two together just make such eye candy for me. I think Monica's art is super cartoony, bouncy, and fluid. And just Cyril just brings it with the colors. And I personally, I flat the whole book. So I do all the flats and I letter the entire book as well. So I do all the lettering in both stories and the writing for Rotten Luck. So yeah, they're awesome. So, Monica's all paid up, so we don't have to worry about raising money for that. But for this campaign and the next one, just got to get Cyril paid to do what he does best, and that's color comics.
Awesome. So, well, thanks so much for sticking around for all this time chatting with me. And like I said, loved Outbreaks. Looking forward to all the books coming out. Should point out real quick before we take off too, you're also going to be back with Marvel here soon to work on Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
That's coming out in October?
No, I believe it's coming out in November. I'm just drawing a little 8-page fun story in that, which is like a what if story. What if Howard the Duck was Star-Lord? So I'm drawing the Guardians of the Galaxy and the little duck that could, and it's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that book. Howard the Duck's always been a fun character over Marvel, so great to see you working on that too. And if people wanted to follow you further, I mean, obviously they can go to the Kickstarter and the Zoop campaign, check those out. But do you do social media? Do you have a website? Where can people follow everything?
So if you want to follow my work, you can follow me at Robson Inc., and that's Robson INK. Anywhere on any social media, I'm on them all. And you can go to my website, speechcomics.com. And if you want to read the Dead-Eye Dick for free, I'm offering that as a webcomic going forward. So it will come out much later than people get it when they back the book. But that will always be a free story online so that people can get a taste of what Outbreaks is like. So currently, up on speechcomics.com, you can read the first 6 or 7 pages of Dead-Eye Dick absolutely for free. So if you're unsure if Outbreaks is for you, read that, and then you should be able to make your decision going forward from there. Besides that, I also do my own podcast with my brother called Batman the Animated Series Podcast, where we interview guests that have created the show, written the show, directed the show, acted on the show. And I don't know if you're on TikTok, but my brother makes the funniest videos of our dick and fart jokes with Batman the Animated Series involved, and it's very funny. So I recommend that. So that's what I'm doing, and that's where I am.
Awesome. So everybody go check those things out. And as you know, you can find links in the show notes down below to the campaigns and to Will's website. So go check those out. Wholly endorse Outbreaks. I really love that first issue.
Thank you,
I'm looking
man.
forward to number 2. So yeah, Will, thanks so much. And I look forward to the book. I look forward to chatting to you again in the future, and best of luck with the campaign.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you so much for backing as well. I appreciate that.